everyone, I'm Dr. Padmaja Nandigama. I'm a psychology faculty, life coach, motivational speaker, and an academic advisor. Today, I have my friend Mamatha Chamarthi here. She's a role model for many, and of course for me too. She's a very prominent figure in her industry and in our Metro Detroit community. She is a senior vice president and chief digital officer at ZF Group. So it's my pleasure to be able to talk to her, and she's going to share her experiences with us. Thank you, Mamatha, for agreeing to do this.
Absolutely. I'm so humbled. Thank you so much for coming all the way here.
Okay, thank you. So let's start off asking you some basic introductory questions, okay? So tell us about yourself, your early childhood and your education.
Yeah. So I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, in India, and I took a kind of an unusual path into technology. That itself is pretty interesting, and that's what I feel is so unique to me today. I did my undergrad in psychology, sociology, and English.
Wow.
And did my master's in English because I got a government scholarship from the government of India.
Wow.
And so I thought, okay, if I'm not going to spend a penny and do a master's degree, that sounds like a great thing. So I did my master's in English and got married to my childhood friend, Gopal. And we moved to Bangalore. And then I started teaching all the way up to undergrad level English. I was, 22? And then I would come home and tell Gopal, I love teaching, a great profession, but somehow the mundaneness of going to 5 or 6 sections and teaching the same Keats poem here and there again and again. Yeah. I said, I would love to do something much more dynamic than what I'm doing. And then Gopal used to bring Fortune magazines home, and Business Week and Fortune magazine. And then I would read them and say, oh, wow, this business world is way too exciting. And then he said, you should go to business school. Why are you constraining yourself? Why do you think that this should be your world? You go to business school, do your... And he said, well, write entrance exams everywhere and see how. So I finally ended up in SV University at the School of Business to do my MBA, and Gopal moved here to the US.
Okay.
About a year after I joined school. And then I followed him initially to California. And then a couple months after I came to the US, to California, he said, we are going to move to Michigan. I thought, okay, Michigan would be like a kind of a warm place, like California. I didn't know anything about what Michigan is. And then because he landed his dream job at Ford Motor Company. And as you know, Gopal still works for Ford.
Oh, nice.
After these many years. And he's still so committed and loyal to Ford. So we came to Michigan, and we ended up in Dearborn Heights. And I thought that must be the downtown part of Michigan, or Detroit area, and we would be moving to a nice and hot, coming from California mindset, but we stayed in Dearborn Heights for about a couple of years, and then I conceived my oldest son, and then he was born in March of 1996, a year or so after we moved to Michigan, and then I joined Chrysler Corporation. Interesting thing is when he was 3 months old is when I started interviewing for jobs. And back in those days, we never had a large Indian community here or a support system. And getting visas was also very difficult. So my mother-in-law, my mom, none of them could come to help me out. So I had Rahul on my lap, and then I was doing interview with Chrysler Corporation. And then in the middle, he started crying. He thought that was a great time for him to cry. And so he started crying. And the interviewer, fortunately, she said, she's a mom. And she said, I totally understand what you're going through. Calm down your baby and call me back.
Nice.
That was an important lesson for me, Padmaja, that I learned from just it seems like a tiny incident. But that's something that I remembered throughout my life, that you really always have to put yourself in the shoes of the other person. Empathy, that deep empathy, either for the business or for people, before you create any kind of an opinion about them.
Exactly.
And even though, even then be open-minded to changing opinions.
Sure.
I called her back, and the rest is history. I joined Chrysler Corporation in 1996. And even a few weeks after I joined Chrysler as a contractor, I was a contractor there, and Rahul had pneumonia. This is my first baby. He's like 3.5 months old, and he's down with pneumonia, and then I didn't know what to do.
Right.
And my mom said, "Why are you even working? You should be home, taking care of your baby, and not going to work."
Right. Yes.
That made me feel so guilty about even working. Should I be doing this? And then I stayed home for a couple weeks. Even then, at Chrysler and even at my contracting company, they said, "Take your time, take care of the baby, and then come back."
Right.
They were so patient with me. They gave me 3 weeks to take care of Rahul. And then I went back. And then a couple years later, I was hired into Chrysler Corporation as an employee. Right away signed an NDA to non-disclosure agreement to work on the merger of Daimler and Chrysler.
Right.
I was one of the project managers for day one of the merger. And just one of the days when I was working almost till it was like 1 a.m. in the morning, I started feeling lightheaded. So I went to the doctor the next day, and then she told me I was expecting my second one. So it was like, that's how I remember my milestones of both the babies as well as working. And then...
so you were enjoying the moment when you were working as well as going with the flow.
Yes. And then I worked on the merger, and then I was part of the post-merger integration team. From then on, there was no looking back.
Okay.
The more I contributed to the company, as a side effect, I got into better positions. And I kept on giving back more and more.
That's the key.
Yeah. I never thought about, would I get a promotion if I did this? I never, when they gave me my role and they said your role is ABC, I never looked at my role as just ABC.
Right.
I looked at what are all the opportunities that are around me and crept into those opportunities.
That is the key.
And
working out of the box.
Yes. Yeah. And then the more I did, the more I got. And then from Daimler Chrysler, I worked on even the separation of Daimler and Chrysler. I worked both on the merger and the separation of the companies. Quite an emotional journey. And
so this is in a span of how many years?
I think in 1996 I got hired. 2006 I started working on the separation. And while I was going to school, I had 2 boys at home. And, like Charles Dickens' quote, right? It was the best of times and worst of times. That was the best of times and worst of times because,
But you make it look so easy and so perfectly done.
I think when I was going through it, it was not that very perfect. But I think after that, I went to consumers as the CIO because I had an opportunity to move to Germany or stay in Michigan with the kids being young.
You chose good old Michigan.
I chose to stay back in Michigan. And from there, I always loved being in a global setting, in a global company. So my calling was to come back again to the automotive industry with TRW as the global CIO. And then just a few months after I joined TRW, we merged with another German company, ZF. And then I was involved in merging both the companies. And even then, I never thought that, okay, there is an incumbent CIO. Will my position as a CIO get displaced? And if so, I was nervous. I did think about it, but I was never worried about it. I said, let me just contribute to whatever
comes, you take it.
And then out of the blue, our CEO called me one day and he said, I want you to report into me and be the Chief Digital Officer, and I want you to help me transform ZF from a mechanical engineering company to a digital company. So I said, okay, that sounds pretty challenging.
Right.
Count me in. And then I just jumped into it
Right.
without even thinking, both feet into the water and said, okay, this is it. Okay, I'm going to do it. And today, I'm
So
still
just to get a scope of how much work you do, I want you to just tell us your daily schedule or how much traveling you do. I know how much you do, but I just want you to share that with my friends.
So ZF is a $43 billion tier one automotive supplier.
Right.
We do, if a car were to have just our components, not our competitions, we would have close to 40 to 45% of the cost of the car.
Wow.
That's how broad our product portfolio is. And our company is based in Friedrichshafen, Germany. And I report into the CEO, who is placed in Friedrichshafen.
Okay.
Friedrichshafen. And the entire board of management and most of the people that I need to influence are in Germany.
Okay.
So my office is typically I have one on Delta Airlines and the other one on Lufthansa.
Okay.
That's how I would
You're your prime customer.
As my title goes, I'm always in the clouds.
Right.
You're
a star. You're a star.
I travel more than 90% of the time.
Right.
Yeah. My family misses me the most.
Yeah. But I think Gopal manages it well.
Right? He does.
Right.
He does an awesome job.
Yeah.
He's surely my kids, and Gopal are my cheerleaders.
Definitely. I mean, when you started off your story, you could see that Gopal is the one who is guiding you and helping you reach your heights. Awesome. And in all these years, you being in the industry, have you seen a change in terms of like gender change or diversity? What is the change you've seen, if you've seen any?
I think I still remember when I joined Chrysler in 1996. Typically, if you remember, in those days, we would still pack lunch and take it with us because we loved our spicy food.
Right.
So I would pack my lunch and then take it and warm it up in the microwave.
Right.
And there would be only a couple of people from Asia, not just Indian origin, but Asia, typically near the microwave warming up food. That's how you made friends.
Right.
Whoever came to the microwave, you would meet them and then, slowly. But I think now, the Y2K wave triggered the IT boom.
Right.
And then you saw a lot more, immigrants from the Asia Pacific region in the US. But today, if you see, there is this. US has always been a mixing pot.
Yeah, definitely, and especially Metro Detroit area.
Yeah. So I think in the auto industry, I think over the years the diversity has definitely increased. But still, if you look at something that in our industry we could improve is gender diversity. It's still a predominantly male-dominated, it's looked as a male-dominated industry. So that's something that we are working on.
Right. Okay.
But I think for me, from my perspective, diversity is not just about what you see physically as an attribute of a person, but diversity is what you bring to the table in terms of your thought process.
Right.
So that's why I said, coming from this diverse educational background, where I started with psychology to English, and then I did a master's in computer science here in Oakland University. Then I went and did another MBA from Northwestern. From Kellogg. And so I think that when you bring that kind of a diverse thinking to the table, you're so unique in terms of what you contribute.
Right. That's one thing I think, especially for Indian women, young girls who are going to be watching this, make yourself indispensable.
Yes.
Be an expert in your field, so they're going to be wanting to
do the best that you can.
Right.
And there is one of my mentors, if I remember from a long time ago, that so as you grow in your career, of course, we all aspire for a promotion. We want to be in the next role. He gave me an advice. He said, don't wear that like as a suit.
Right. Nice.
Whatever is your aspiration, you have your aspirations.
Yeah.
But you don't have to always have people explicitly state what you're looking at.
See, that's what I like in you, Mamatha, your humbleness.
Yeah.
You know, for friends, I want you to know that she lives in this community, has been living in this community, holding that such high positions. You never flaunt your position. Or you are there coming to, you know, activities in the temples and being as humble as ever. You know, that's a great point which you made. You know?
Yeah, I think that's something, you know, there are almost everything that people say, there is so much that you can learn from the world.
Right.
And that's one thing I feel that we all need to be, is that open-mindedness for learning.
Right.
We all learn from each other. We all learn from everyone. So just have such an open mind that you're learning from anything, any incident, and anyone and everyone.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Even when I'm looking at any opportunities or other things, sometimes I involve my kids too, because I want to get their perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what is it, you know, how are they thinking about it? They may not have the experience that I have.
That's age diversity.
Yeah, but that they offer a very diverse opinion about what I'm looking at.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So that I think they are the biggest critics, probably, right? In mom, you have to do it this way or that way, or
critics. I think more. I would say I get more of the critical feedback from Gopal, because he has, I think, the best of what I should be. I don't take that criticism as he's always being critical of me, but rather than that he's offering his criticism because he doesn't want anyone else to
say that to you.
Say that to me.
Right.
But my kids, both my kids, I always feel like they have always had a very positive outlook about everything that I did. Yeah. Anything immediately, even a small email that I get or a recognition I get, the first ones to congratulate would be my husband and my kids.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So your strength is your family.
My strength is definitely my family.
Right. And I want to ask you, like, you know, because your kids were growing up when you're building your career. So there must have been some moments when you thought, you know what, I can't do it, or I can't miss my child's special moment of piano recital, or be at that meeting. So, you know, every mom goes through that, you know, and we see so many young women trying to balance kids and work and wanting to achieve great heights in their career. So how did you cross that bridge, or what did you tell yourself? Please tell that. Please share it.
I think the very first moment for me came when Nikhil was 8 weeks old. And back then we only had 6 weeks of maternity leave at Daimler Chrysler. And I was asked to go to Germany for a business meeting. And 8 weeks old. But fortunately, I'm really blessed that my mother-in-law spent till Nikhil was almost 8 years old. She lived with us.
Okay.
So she became that support structure for me outside of Gopal, who was always, he's like, don't even think about it. You just need to do what you have to do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, so, Gopal exudes that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So I think... So I'm blessed that way, that even my mother-in-law had a very modern outlook of what women should do and women should be.
Yeah. So I think you were just telling them that you should draw in the support. Ask for help. You know,
it takes a village.
It takes a village.
Yes.
Yeah. So nice advice. You know, and in terms of career, you know, what would you tell the young engineers, or, you know, I have 2 daughters who are in college and high school. They're going to be watching this. So what are you going to tell them? You know,
I think the same thing as you bring up the kids and you count on the support system, and you have to shamelessly ask for help, and also build a network. The way you build a network is by not thinking about what will I get out of it, but by giving. So think about what you can give back to your network first, and it will pay back to you in the time of whatever is your need.
Right.
So some of the mentoring relationships that I have built over the time, now I don't have to call them specifically for advice. As part of a normal conversation, I'm talking about some of the things that I'm encountering, and the advice becomes part of a normal conversation.
Yeah.
So I think my advice always to people is build a good network. And the way you build that network is by giving back to that network first, rather than trying to receive from the network.
Right.
Because when you're selfish, networks don't become strong.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, Mamatha. Thank you for giving us time and, just agreeing to do this. See, I think that's what it is. Openness, you encourage everybody, you give, you do service, and you're ready to learn from everybody.
Yeah.
So I'm happy we did this. So hopefully, friends and young women who are going to watch this are going to learn some tips and
absolutely. I hope so too. And
Yeah.
I hope to hear the feedback
Definitely.
from them so that I can see what I said or what I did that really aligned with their thinking or not.
Yeah, and then we didn't pause. I didn't even ask you questions which I prepared. You just took it off.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.